So were you looking for a project to work together on specifically, or was it something that you were a bit wary of?
No, not at all. We weren't looking at, I mean, I've always, as a father, and the fact that we're also fellow actors, both my older two daughters are actors. I mean, in any situation when you can work with your children on a project is a beautiful thing. So, but we weren't specifically looking for anything. The script came to me with the caveat if I would act and produce it. And I read it, I gave it to Dominique because I wanted her opinion on the overall aspects of the script. Obviously, I saw there was a part she'd be right for, but ultimately that was going to be the director's decision, and I would support it, but it would be his call, you know.
And what about you, Dominic? Did you had your feelings about it? Were you a bit sort of wondering how it would work, so working with Dad and what the dynamic would be?
No, at all. I just really wanted to play Vivian, regardless.
Who the father was.
Yeah, it was just, I really just felt, I read the script the first time not knowing that part was even there. I didn't know what it was about. I read a lot of his scripts that he does before he makes them. And it was just, his script has no money, like, tell me what you think of it. And I saw that part of Vivian's, and I always had her in mind, and that was 2 years prior to when we shot it. So, I mean, I individually fell in love with that role. So, it didn't matter.
And the Rizzers are a kind of very loud, argumentative family, and that's always sort of associated with having sort of Latin blood and all that. I mean, is it something you can relate to, or
Oh, for sure.
Sure, absolutely. But the humor in the piece is in the actual construction of those scenes.
Yeah.
I think if you take that script and give it to a middle class English family, the rhythms or the volumes might be different, but the humor will still be there. When something's well written, it's like if you take the play Hamlet, it's been produced in many languages of many time periods, many different cultures, adapted to many different cultures. What works is the storytelling and the writing,
Mm-hmm. And the Vivian character is obviously quite a racy character. And I was wondering as well, that because obviously a father doesn't want to see his daughter like that usually. I mean, was that a bit weird, or can you just kind of...
He doesn't want to see me really pole dancing,
in
on
real
the
life.
Sunset Strip. But it's a
in
part,
a movie, it's a different
it's,
scenario. I would have uncomfortability, obviously, if I found that she was doing that in real life, no doubt.
The role had so much more to her than that. That was just a small thing about it for me. That was just her, the job she chose to do.
Right.
It could have been so many different jobs, but that wasn't really what it was about. So that's not what attracted me to it at all.
It's also very funny though as well. It's really funny, and I particularly liked your Marlon Brando impression. I was just wondering, how long did it take to sort of figure that out? Did you have it in the bag, and you were just kind of waiting for many years?
I think every actor in the world does a bad Marlon Brando impression. Some do better ones than others, but it's just something because he's such an eccentric character. That people kind of, I think they do him. But when I read the script, it wasn't in the script, but I had this idea about him he was obsessed more generally with, Scorsese, De Niro, Coppola, Pacino, all the New York sort of filmmaker actors, and it was more public about it actually, and he had posters in his office, and I told the director, I have this idea, and it should be only one guy, and it should be Brando, because he's like Zeus, he's like the guy, and it should be private, it should be discovered in the movie by people, but it should not be a public thing that he would share with anyone. And then I said in the audition, he kind of would manifest itself, and I did the impression for him. He laughed. He said, "Oh, that's very funny." So we sort of rewrote that arc a little bit.
Okay. And you're also directing at the moment, I understand.
Not at the moment, but I'm in the process of financing a movie that I'm going to direct. Yes.
What can you tell us about that? I'm thinking particularly of you directing Anthony Hopkins, which must be quite a daunting thing.
Sir Anthony Hopkins, or Tony as he forces me to call him, which I refuse. Well, I do, but I always refuse. It's hard, But he has embraced a project of mine entitled Hemingway and Fuentes that deals with Ernest Hemingway and the captain of his boat, Gregorio Fuentes, that was with him for the last 20 years of his life. And the story revolves mostly around the last 10 years of his life. During the time he wrote The Old Man in the Sea, and also Annette Bening has expressed interest in playing his wife. And it's a project that I wrote with Hilary Hemingway, which is his brother's daughter, Ernest's brother's daughter, and which I will also be directing. So I'm in the process of that.